What's up, everyone? So today I'm going to be ranking the Transformers Shatterglass Wave 1. So of course, in Wave 1 there's 5 figures. We have Blur, Megatron, Starscream, Goldbook, and Jetfire. So I'm going to be going from my favorite to my least favorite figure. So of course this is kind of hard to pick my least favorite figure because really all these are really good figures. But of course there has to be one at the top and there has to be one at the bottom. So without further ado, let's get into this ranking video. So starting off with my favorite Transformers Shatterglass figure from Wave 1, here we have Transformers Shatterglass Voyager class Starscream. So here we have Starscream. Let's get into the pros and cons of the robot mode and accessories. Then of course after we will get into the alt mode. So for the robot mode, I think they did an amazing job. Of course this is like the 10th version of this mold, but I think it's the best version because it just looks so cool. The concept of Shatterglass is probably one of my favorite separate storylines that is really cool. I would love a TV show off of it. It just looks so cool. I love the Jetfire-esque look to him. The blue, the black, and the red and the white looks so good together. In my personal opinion, I kind of wish there was a little bit more blue maybe on his arms or the null rays, but overall looks amazing. The null rays, of course, the exact same sculpt as the other Seekers before this from the Sage line, just done in white, very simple, very nice. The head sculpt looks really cool. I love the nice blue cockpit on the chest. That looks really cool with a very small Decepticon symbol. That looks really good. And of course, lots of designs all over this figure that looks amazing. Head sculpt looks really nice as well. The wings, I think they did a really good job as well. Of course, you can put these in a lot of angles for really cool dynamic poses. Some nice Decepticon symbols there. I really do like the nice gunmetal gray on the back. Overall, design-wise, they did a really good job with this. Again, a really cool Jetfire-esque look for Starscream. So getting into the accessories, of course, I really do like the no rays. Of course, as Seeker, you have to have the no rays. It's just a requirement. Now, getting to the sword, which was definitely a major draw to this figure for me. I love it when they do swords. So this does kind of lead to a con in the figure. So, of course, you can have the sword in this configuration, and of course you can have him hold it just like this if you put it in his hand, and I think that looks pretty cool in my opinion. But this does lead to a con again, so you can separate this sword, which is pretty cool, but unfortunately it is a very loose connection, so if you put this in his hand connected, it could fall apart, which is kind of unfortunate. It doesn't happen very often, but if you kind of move him around a little bit too much, it could fall apart. It doesn't break or anything, of course, you can just tap it back together, but that is kind of unfortunate. In my opinion, honestly, if I had to choose for it to separate or not, I would honestly rather just have one solid, really cool looking sword. But I do know people like the dual wielding swords. That does look very cool. I do really like that. That does look really cool. And of course, amazing, really cool poses you can put him in. But that's really one just minor nitpick. Unfortunately, the connection isn't the most secure, but that is not a deal breaker. One other thing that I would complain is that I think they missed an opportunity. So if you have the Siege Commander class Jetfire, you know he came with a mask, and since they're going with the more Jetfire look with this figure, I think it would have been really cool if we got a battle mask for Starscream. I know people wouldn't like it because there really be no other way to store it besides, of course, putting on his face. I do understand people do not want pieces off to the side. That is completely understandable, but I think that would have been so cool if they included that. I wouldn't care if you just had to put off to the side and there's no other way to store it. I think it would have been amazing. So overall, a really good robot mode. Let's get into the pros and cons of the Tetrajet alt mode. Getting into the pros and cons of the Tetrajet alt mode, I think overall this alt mode looks very cool. Of course, exactly what we expect from the Tetrajets. Of course, this is like the 10th version of this mold. I think it still works very well. Again, of course, that really Jetfire looking color scheme. I love the blue, the black, and the white, and the red look. That looks amazing. I love the Decepticon symbols right there. I like the accessories. I think they store quite well on the wings. I think it does look very cool. I do question the practicality of putting the swords on the wings. I don't really know what use you'd have for those, especially in the ship mode, but I think it does look pretty cool in appearance. I love the long nose of the Tetrajet. That looks very cool. And of course, back here, I again really do like that gunmetal gray for the engine section. Of course, if you wanted to, you could put a blaster piece there for a really cool effect. That does look very nice. So overall, a really cool Tetrajet alt mode. I don't have many thoughts on this because it's like the 10th version of this figure, and of course, this is, there's really no sculpting changes in this mode at all, really just paint apps, that's pretty much it. So getting into my one nitpick of this alt mode, unfortunately here, this does not collapse all the way. As you can see, there is a minor little gap in between this section here. Unfortunately, it just does not close all the way. I've tried to compress it, but of course I do not want to force it to close. So it is a minor, small little gap, a very minor nitpick, but I'm going to be very picky in these ranking videos because there's only 5 figures in this wave, so I need to be as, stern and picky as possible so I can give you my full, honest thoughts. That is not a deal breaker for me, but I do wish it compressed more. Unfortunately, again, there's that gap there, but again, not a deal breaker. Overall, the Tetrajet alt mode looks really cool. Love the storage for the accessories. I love the very slender and sleek triangular look. I think it works very well. I don't think it's my favorite look for the Tetrajet. I think probably my favorite look for the Tetrajet is Skywarp's, but I think this is probably my favorite look for the robot. I think it looks really good. Overall, a very, very cool looking alt mode. I would say probably another missed opportunity is maybe they could have put some of that crackling kind of electricity look on the wings. If you have Shatterglass Blur, he has these little electric lines in his alt mode, and I think that looked really cool in that mode, and I kind of wish maybe they put some on this figure too, but of course that is kind of a, in my opinion, sort of thing. Some people might not want that because it could look a little messy and out of place on some figures in people's opinion, but mine, I think that would look pretty cool. So overall, definitely this is my favorite Shatterglass figure. In the comment section below, let me know what is your favorite Shatterglass figure of Wave 1 and what is your least favorite. So now, let's move on to the second figure. Here we have number 2 out of 5 on this ranking video for the Shatterglass Wave 1 line. Here we have Transformers Shatterglass Voyager class Megatron. So I think, in my opinion, this is definitely the biggest bang for your buck out of this entire line. Yes, these figures can get a little pricey, especially where Shatterglass Jetfire is concerned. He gets to about 110 after tax, so it really just depends if you're a completionist and want to finish the entire line, or if you just want to get a few of the figures. I'm kind of a completionist, but just putting that aside, I think all these figures are worth getting, in my opinion. Yes, some of them can, again, get very pricey and do have a few problems, but this figure is really, really cool. I love how many accessories that come with this figure. So getting over the accessories, we have the really cool fusion cannon and the sword, which are the same 2 accessories that came with the Siege Megatron molds. Just new paint apps, of course, but then we have 3 brand new accessories. We have this really cool shield piece, which does form the front and the jet mode, but I think it looks really cool with the nice black for the tips, some white and some blue and red. That looks really cool. And then we have these wing pieces, which are very, very cool. I do like that nice see-through blue plastic they used, and the nice red there, and of course these big wing pieces at the tips. That looks really cool. You can remove these if you want to and put them off to the side, but I do like how it really creates the illusion that they are permanent on this figure. It really creates the illusion that this is a brand new molded figure, which is very cool. But again, if you want to have more of a simple, slender look, you can take them off, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I love how many accessories that comes with it. I think it's really cool. I think it does justify the price increase. But of course, now getting into the figure itself without the accessories, I think overall it's pretty cool. The head sculpt, no new sculpting changes, just some new paint apps. I do like the nice Decepticon symbol on the chest done in red this time, not purple, as we usually see it. The legs are very nice and simple, some nice red, black, and some nice kind of a white, creamy white. That looks really good, and some nice silver on the feet with some black. Overall, just with the accessories out of the way, it is a very simple figure, but I think it looks really good. So getting to my small minor nitpicks. These 2 nitpicks I actually was expecting to be a problem with this figure because they were repeating problems with other versions of this mold. So the first problem I think you already know is the head piece here. It does not stay in place. That is really just moving it around. Of course, if you just leave it like this, it doesn't fall out of place or anything. It's fine, but I do wish it locked into place. That is kind of unfortunate. The next problem, another problem people are probably expecting to see in this ranking video, is the ankles. They don't really lock into place. That being said, they don't really just, randomly cave in, but doing poses can be kind of hard because they are a little loose at the hinge, but just having it stand up, it is quite secure and does look very cool. So those are really the only 2 nitpicks for the robot mode. Very minor, easily to overlook. Again, I was expecting them because they are the exact same problems that were with the other Siege versions of this mold. So now, Of course, there is a big plus to this figure, because when I was going to buy this figure, I was of course expecting this to transform into a tank just like the other Megatron version of this mold, but this figure actually transforms into a brand new mode, which is very cool. But another added plus, you can actually still transform this into the tank, but I won't show that on camera in this video, because of course you know exactly what it looks like. We all know what it looks like. It's a pretty cool tank. But now, without further ado, let's get into the brand new ship mode. Here we have Shatterglass Megatron in his brand new Jets alt mode, and I think it works actually pretty well. Of course, there is a few problems here and there, but I think it actually works pretty well. Definitely, I'm really glad that they did not just stick us with the same Siege tank. I would have been really disappointed and annoyed. I was actually expecting that to happen before I bought this. Before I even clicked on the page, when I saw this was revealed, I was like, okay, it's of course Megatron, but he's good, and he'll of course transform into a typical tank. But no, that is not the case. Of course, again, you can still transform this into the tank. I won't really be critiquing that. I don't have any problems with it. It's exactly how it usually is with the other Siege versions. Nothing different. But this is definitely something to talk about. I think it looks very cool, of course. I love the wings there. That looks really cool. Some more blue on the main turret or fusion cannon section. I like how it can move. That's pretty cool. And of course, the front section looks pretty nice as well. So overall, I think it's a pretty good tank. Yes, it is a little bit of an easy transformation. It's really just Megatron kind of laid down. Of course, these are his legs and his head is right there. So kind of a simple transformation, but for a first time Jets, I think it's actually pretty good. Of course, this line is just a bunch of repaints, and they definitely did not have to make a brand new mode for this, but I think it looks really cool. Again, they didn't have to, but I think it works very well. So getting into a few minor critiques of this Jet mode, unfortunately, there is really no way you can store the big sword piece. I have seen people just kind of plug it into there. I think that looks bad, so there really is no way where it looks good and works, which is kind of unfortunate. That's not a big problem, again, just a minor nitpick. A bigger problem that I do have to mention is, unfortunately, this back section, as you can see, does not really tab into place very well. It's supposed to, of course, slide into there, and it looks secure right now, but just moving it around, it's very easily just popping into place. Not the biggest problem. It is easily just stays into place if you just have it on display like this, which is usually how I have it. But if you're messing around with it or playing around with it like that, it could come undone. But overall, I think it's a pretty good Jet mode for the first time try with these new added pieces. Again, they could have easily taken the simple, lazy route of just saying, here's a tank, that's it, you're done, you know, typical tank that we've used several times before, but I'm so glad they did not. That would have been very disappointing. I still think this is definitely the biggest bang for your buck out of this Shatterglass line. Comes with a ton of accessories, a brand new mode. It's technically a triple changer. In the instructions, it does not show you how to transform it into the tank, but it's the same steps as every other Megatron we've seen with this mold here, so nothing different or crazy. So I think it's definitely a worth to pick up figure. Of course, this is a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, so it might be a little hard to find, but I would definitely try and find it because it's a very good figure. Now moving on to number 3 in this rank. Number 3 in this ranking video, we're going to start off with the pros and cons with the figure here, and then of course we'll get into my pros and cons of the accessories, because there is a lot that comes with this figure. So I think overall this figure is pretty good. It has an amazing presence in the room. When I first got this figure, I was like, wow, this box is huge. It is ginormous. I love the comic book that comes with it. Of course, I'm not really a big comic book reader, but I still like displaying it on my wall. It looks so cool. I love all the features that this figure has, how you can put the battle mask on him. I love battle masks. They're so cool. They don't do them as nearly as much as they should, because they just look so cool when they do them. I love the really cool opening and closing hand feature. Of course, if you open the hands, the peg will disappear, but if you close it, it will reappear, which is very cool. The signal or sign flipping feature, of course, if you have an Autobot symbol, you can flip it for him to be a Decepticon, so that's pretty cool. All of these are the same features that came with the Siege Commander class figure, so nothing surprising there at all, but still a really cool figure that I do highly recommend. Sculpting changes on the figure itself, there is none. There's no sculpting changes, which is kind of disappointing. When I first heard about this figure, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm fine with that. I mean, That'd be really cool to have an evil version of Jetfire. That'd be terrifying, of course, considering how big he is in the show and how big the figure is. That'd be so awesome. But I am slightly disappointed. I would have liked maybe some sculpting changes, maybe a kind of more menacing face, like the Shatterglass Blur figure. You know, he has like a bloody eye patch. That'd have been awesome if they gave him like a bloody eye patch, or, you know, a really cool mask on him, a different sculpt than the one that came with Jetfire from Siege. I think that would have been really cool. Don't get me wrong, it's a really cool figure. I highly recommend it, but I think I would have liked if there was some sculpting changes. There was really none. But yeah, overall, articulation's pretty good. The features are really cool. I love the really nice dark paint apps to him, the black, the dark purple, and I do really like that nice kind of lime green there. That looks really good on his chest. So now let's get into the accessories. I'm going to lower the camera just a tad bit so you can see better, because this figure I had to zoom out and raise up the camera a ton because he's just such a big figure. So I'm going to lower the camera off cam for a second, and then we're going to get into the accessories. Now getting to my pros and cons of the accessories, I think overall they're pretty cool accessories. Unfortunately, they're the exact same ones that came with the Siege Commander Class Jetfire. Yes, they are cool accessories, don't get me wrong, but I would have really liked if maybe we had some new ones, because this figure is about $110, including tax and everything. Of course, if you do not have the Hasbro Pulse Premium, then it's probably about $117. I have Premium, so I did not have to pay shipping, but yeah, I still do not think it is worth $110, because unfortunately there is no new sculpting changes or new accessories at all. I love the chest piece and the rifle and the mask. Those accessories, they can stay the same, but the other ones, I think they could have done more or better accessories, especially these four here, because there's no new paint apps, no new sculpting changes to them. They are very plain accessories. I still feel the same way that I did with the Siege Jetfire one. These exact same ones came with that, and I was like, these are just four, you know, simple black little missiles, and, you know, they don't really do much. They just kind of clip onto the wings. And, you know, this chest piece, that looks really cool. I love his classic rifle from the G1 show. That works, and I love the mask. The mask, I'll never not like. I think it works. But getting into more nitpicks, I would say, I think it'd been pretty cool if they didn't change the head sculpt of the figure, if they maybe put like some cracks or chips on the mask itself so it shows like he's been through battles, or they could have done that on the chest piece if they had some cracks or something on there. That would have been pretty cool. Or they could have put those little electricity lines like from Blur. If they put some on his chest, I think that would have been really cool. Or on here somewhere, I think that would have been a huge change, and I think it looked awesome. With these, I think they could have just scrapped these four weapons just as a whole. They just don't do much. They're very plain and boring. I'd have liked for like maybe a bazooka, or I don't know, maybe some new plastic pieces, something like that. Or they could have taken these away and given us a flight stand. I would have loved a really cool stand, because you could have done some amazing poses with this figure. Yes, this figure is really cool. I do recommend it. It's an amazing figure. It brings a huge presence to the room, but I think for the price, it deserves some new sculpting changes. Now let's get into the pros and cons of the jet mode. So now getting into the pros and cons for the jet mode for Transformers Shatterglass Commander Class Jetfire. Here we have him in his jet mode. I think this jet mode is just so cool. I really don't have pretty much any, I would say, cons to this mode. I think overall it is very, very cool. I love how you can store the big weapons package on top. It's really cool how you can connect them all together. I do give points to this version of the Jetfire mold, because this stays together quite a bit better. In the Siege version, it really folded apart a lot and it was kind of annoying. I love how you can plug in the blaster pieces back there for really cool effect. These are more of a blue, in the Siege one they are more of a red. I do love all of the nice lime green everywhere. That really pops. It looks good. The wingspan is really, really big and nice. I love how there's some landing gear on this figure so it can roll back and forth. That is pretty cool. And there is just a lot of really cool playability options. Like you can store Titan Masters in the front and in this section here, which is a really cool feature as well. I love the silver everywhere. That looks really good as well. And one last really cool feature that I know of is you can get these sections here, and you can put figures' hands in this little peg there, so they can like ride under Jetfire and he can carry them to their destination in the battle. So that's really, really cool. I would advise putting very very big figures there, but probably a deluxe that would work pretty well. Kind of hard to show on camera, that's why I'm not doing it, but it's still a really cool option that is very fun to do. So overall, a really good jet mode. So now just some minor little nitpicks. It is kind of hard to get this little filler piece out of there, so there's this little filler piece in here whenever you do not want to put a 10 master there. It's kind of hard to get out, so that's kind of a small little nitpick. Another nitpick is it is very hard to actually get these panels to stay tabbed in. So there is 2 points that they're supposed to connect here and here. It's really hard to get both connected at the same time. That's just kind of a problem, I think, just with the molds, because the Siege Jetfire was the exact same way. I was expecting that. It's just kind of hard to stay tabbed in. Not a big problem. You know, I got this side, the other side unfortunately did untab when I was talking about this, but it's to be expected. That's really all the nitpicks I have. So overall, it's a pretty good figure. Just really, is it worth for you to buy this? It is a repaint, of course, but I really would have liked some more sculpting changes. The jet is perfectly fine. I don't really need any sculpting changes in it. It's a really good jet. Probably one of the best ships or jets they've made recently in the past few years. Really, really good. So now, let's move on to number 4. Here we have number 4. Here we have Transformers Shatterglass Deluxe Class Goldbug. Of course, is the exact same sculpt as the Cliff Jumper mold, and all of the other versions of this, of course, like Hubcap, Bumblebee, Cliff Jumper, and all of them. Of course, there is just a brand new head sculpt. I think the head sculpt does look pretty good. Nice blue and red and silver for the mouth guard, but unfortunately, I think, in my opinion, it is out of proportion. I think it does not match the feet and the arms. It does look kind of weird, just in my opinion. Of course, that could just be me. Who knows? Just in my opinion, from certain angles. But I think overall the figure is pretty good. I recommend it. Really, this just where this figure drops is, of course, the proportions, but also in creativity. The only thing new in this figure is the head sculpt. Of course, it does come with the comic book, but I think this figure was priced about $35, I'm pretty sure, with tax. Of course, that depends if you have premium or not, so you might be paying an extra $7 as well. So I think it should come with maybe a better head sculpt and some more paint apps, because I think it does lack in some paint apps. It is very simple. I love the gold. I think the gold looks really good, but I would have liked maybe some of that kind of electricity lines, kind of like on Blur. I really do wish, because, you know, Blur, he's the only figure who has those designs. I really wish maybe that carried on to more of these figures. Not all of them. I know that it's kind of just a, you know, just some certain people like it. Some people don't, so I do understand they didn't put them on all figures, but I would have liked it maybe on him or Jetfire or Megatron or Starscream, any of them. I think that would have been really cool. But yeah, this figure is really cool. It does come with, of course, his shield piece on the back. It comes with this really cool bazooka, which can separate into the pistols, and some other pieces which you can spread across the figure, which is really cool. But I think they should have done better in showing how evil the Autobots are, because if you saw, you know, the advertisements and the marketing and how they were, you know, showing the Autobots, they were saying these are horrible, horrible Transformers, you know, they're murderous, they're evil Autobots. I think they should have done better in showing how kind of scary and, you know, menacing these are. I think they could have made more of a scary head sculpt, kind of like Blur. You know, he has a bloody eye patch, and, you know, he has a red eye. That's what they should have done with this figure here. I think they could have given him, like, you know, a mace, or I don't know, brass knuckles, something crazy. You know, that's what I was imagining when they were talking about the Shatterglass toys. I was imagining these Autobots to be just crazy characters, just crazy, evil, menacing Transformers. And, you know, don't get me wrong, this is a cool figure, but I think they could have done a little bit better in that aspect, that creativity aspect. But yeah, overall, I love the gold. That looks really cool. The black, the nice dark purple for the Autobot symbol, which I do, in my opinion, wish was a little bit bigger. But overall, it's a pretty cool figure. I just don't think the creativity was the best. But overall, good articulation, exactly the same thing as the other versions of this mold. A pretty good figure. I do recommend it. I am just being very picky. Just be aware, just remember, in these ranking videos, I am not just trashing these figures, just saying not to buy them. I'm just being very picky. Whenever I rank figures, I try to be as strict and picky as possible, because I want to give you my honest thoughts and opinions. But yeah, it's a good figure. I just kind of wish maybe they gave us some more accessories. So now let's get into the pros and cons of the alt mode. Here we have the sports car alt mode for Goldbug, which I really don't have any complaints about. Of course, the transformation is the exact same as Cliff Jumper, Bumblebee, and all of them. very simple, very easy, and fun to do. I don't have any problems with it. Of course, the alt mode here is a really, really cool looking sports car. Of course, you can put the bazooka on top, or again, you can separate these and put them everywhere. Like the pistols become like boosters right here. As you can see, there's those tabs, and if you can get these pieces here, you can put them under the tires. And of course, that is a really cool callback to one episode in the G1 show when Cliffjumper put little pieces under his tires because they were in the Antarctic. So I think that's a really cool throwback and nostalgic moment from the G1 show. So very, very nice. But all these pieces here come exactly the same way as the other versions of this mold. All the exact same pieces, just new paint-ups, which, yeah, again, is really just where this figure falls, just points of creativity. But the sports car here, I think it looks really cool. I'm just going to take this off because it does kind of cover up some of the details. I do really like these wheels. That is really cool. Definitely a really cool aspect of the sports car. I love the nice blue for the window. Nice Decepticons or Autobot symbol there. And again, that gold looks amazing. The blue back here can be kind of a surprise in the alt mode. It does kind of stick out a little bit, but I think it looks pretty cool. So overall, a really cool looking sports car in my opinion. Nice stripe of gold there. I think still maybe there could have been, some spikes or something crazy. I just think how they advertise these Autobots, they describe them as, just murderous, crazy Transformers. I think maybe they could have shown that a little bit better on some of these figures, in my opinion. But overall, just a standalone figure, I think it's a pretty good figure that I do recommend. So now let's get into the final figure. Unfortunately, of course, that is Blur, and now let's get right into it. So here we have number 5, the worst, or in my opinion, the worst figure of Wave 1 of the Transformers Shatterglass line. So here we have Blur, and yeah, unfortunately he is the worst in my opinion. He's not a bad or garbage figure. I actually do not have these Studio Series figures, so this is actually a brand new mold for me when I got it. There is just some kind of quality control problems, and there's just not enough paint on him in some areas. So let's just get and start off with it. So I love the head sculpt. I think the head sculpt is really cool. Definitely a major selling point for me. I really do like it. The nice bloody eye patch looks really cool. The nice silver, the red, that looks really good. I think it works. Where I don't like is the weapons. So there is absolutely no paint on the weapons. They're literally just gray. It's extremely boring. They're not painted at all, and I do not know why they didn't paint them. I don't remember. Again, I don't have the Studio Series version, so I'm not sure if that's how they were with that version as well. I don't know, but it does not look very good in my opinion. And also, the feet are the same. They are just gray. It honestly kind of looks unfinished. It kind of looks like a prototype, and they didn't paint them. And actually, if you remove or just move to the side, the hands are also gray as well. So it does kind of look like he's wearing gloves, or kind of like he's unfinished, which does not look very good. But I think the chest looks pretty good. I do like the nice orange there for the chest, and the nice Autobot symbol. That looks pretty good. The nice black and dark blue mixture does look very good, and the nice turquoise for the elbow joint hinges does look pretty cool. Also at the legs, I think it looks good at the main body, but the accessories, the hands, and the feet, they don't look very good in my opinion. Now to some quality control or some joint problems. So unfortunately, my character, or my Blur figure, does not want to really look straight. He kind of just always looks to the side, unfortunately. That's not a big problem in my opinion. Another problem is, of course, you expect it, is these pieces, which I think were a recurring problem in the Blur 86 figure. Unfortunately, these do not really want to stay in place. There's really no, there is a tab, but it just does not stay. So unfortunately, they're just kind of like that, which is, I would say, kind of a big problem for me, so that's kind of unfortunate. So, yeah, it's not, I would say, a garbage or terrible figure. It's just there's some few problems that were easily avoidable. Like, they could have painted the accessories better, and the joint tightness. They could have had the little back of the arm panels tab in better. They're just small little problems that they could have done better. So, yeah, overall, the articulation is pretty good. The head sculpt is pretty good, in my opinion. No, it's not a bad figure. It's about, a 6 or 5.5 out of 10 figure. It's not bad, but it's just okay. So now let's get into the alt mode for its pros and cons. Here we have Blur's alt mode, so let's get into the pros and the cons for it. I think transformation is pretty straightforward and simple. Just after a few times you can get used to it. I think overall the alt mode is actually pretty cool. Very cool stealth kind of hovercraft car sort of thing. Hard to describe, actually. I actually quite like it. It's actually pretty cool. It's pretty similar to the Titan's Return Blur version I have. Of course, that's Titan's Return, so that has a Titan Master, so there is, of course, some differences in that. But in the alt mode, actually, it's pretty similar. So overall, it's pretty cool. I like the silver. I do like how there's a little seat built in with some design in there, like a steering wheel, some buttons. Again, that nice orange there, that looks pretty cool. I, again, of course, really do like these cool electricity lines. I think they should use that more on some of the other figures. I think it looks pretty cool. Nice kind of crackling to show, of course, like the shattered glass lines sort of thing. I think that looks pretty cool. And what's really cool is if you get some nice cool blaster pieces, like from the Arc or from Shattered Glass Jetfire, if you put those back here at the end, it looks really cool. This vehicle mode is great for pictures and poses and stop motions. It looks super, super cool. Definitely, I suggest you to try. I think it's actually pretty good storage for the accessories, but that does kind of highlight how the accessories are just not painted. They're right at the front, but it's actually pretty cool how you can store them together. They compress quite nicely. I think it looks good. Unfortunately, they do kind of rub against the ground, but there's really no paint to chip off, so it's fine. But yeah, them being at the front does kind of highlight how, you know, kind of plain and bare they are. So again, just, yeah, I kind of wish they were painted better, but the vehicle itself, I think it's actually pretty cool. I love the nice electricity look. It looks pretty cool. Overall, I don't really have any complaints with the alt mode. I think it's fine. Just, yeah, in the robot mode, you know, some QC problems, some more paints, and that's pretty much it. So there has been really my ranking of, all the Shattered Glass figures. I think overall these figures are pretty good. Unfortunately, of course, when you're ranking figures, there has to be a best and there has to be a worst or least favorite character, and that is Blur in this situation. He's not a bad or garbage figure, just there is some problems that you really just can't overlook, like the joint tightness and the unpainted accessories. I honestly do not know why they didn't paint them. It just kind of seems like a mistake or like they forgot to. It doesn't seem to me like an on-purpose choice. It seems like an accident, really. It just seems too boring, and it's kind of weird how the feet and the hands are both gray. It kind of looks like he's wearing like socks and like gloves for his hands. It looks kind of weird. The head sculpt, in my opinion, is really cool. Definitely a major selling point for me. It looks super cool. And honestly, I think they should have taken some past advice or past experience with this mold for future Shattered Glass figures. They should do more intricate, more designs for their head sculpts, less simple. And that's really one of my main critiques for Goldbook. His head sculpt, it was, one, too small, and also just too tame, too simple. They should have done more of a scary, menacing look. I think they could have done better. And the same for Jetfire. I think the accessories were a little boring. They could have done some new sculpts, and some new sculpts for the figure itself, if they could. But for Megatron and Starscream, those are definitely the two best figures. Megatron, definitely your biggest bang for your buck, comes with like 5 or 6 accessories, which are pretty cool. Of course, 2 of them you've seen before in previous versions of it, but I think they're still pretty cool with their nice blue paint apps. Starscream, he's a pretty good figure. I love the really cool blue Energon blades. In my opinion, I kind of would rather have just had one solid sword than it splitting in half, but dual wielding the swords does look very, very cool in my opinion. The Tetrajet mode is really cool. Unfortunately, of course, there's that little minor gap there, but that's not a big deal breaker or anything. Of course, Megatron, he has pretty much a triple changer, really, which really adds to how much of a good deal he is. He can transform, of course, into his robot, his tank, which is officially not in the instructions, but you could just look it up online, or if you have the other Megatron versions, you know exactly what to do. And he transforms into a really cool ship. No, it's not perfect, but for the first time, for a brand new mode, I think it's actually pretty good. So that's been my ranking of all these figures. I think overall Shattered Glass Wave 1's a pretty good success. Just, you know, a few problems here and there, which I don't think any line is perfect, you know, with no problems. So I think overall a pretty good line. Highly suggest get these 5 figures. Of course, there is Optimus and Ratchet, which are part of the Selects line, so I didn't include those figures in this, but I suggest to get those figures as well. Of course, those are direct repaints with no new molding or new accessories at all, but still really worthwhile figures that I suggest to get. I think that's pretty much it for this ranking video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next.